We are expecting ANC officials in the next half hour or so.
Yes, that is true, Shahan. We are live to you here. We've now sort of elevated our position so we can give you a better sense of how things are unfolding outside the family home of Mama WinnieMandela in Orlando West here in Soweto. I'm going to step out of shot and just give you a sense of the road. This is the small road which leads up to the house which we are standing in front of. Now, the roads that lead from the funeral parlor from Sofasonke through to Klipspruit Valley Road and Kumalo Street have all been blocked off. So cars are not being allowed into that part of Orlando West in Soweto. But there are calls, certainly, for a guard of honor along that entire route. Calls for ordinary South Africans to come out in their numbers. As you say, for the very last time, the body of Mama Winnie is brought back to her home here in Soweto. Well, joining us here in Orlando West is ENCA Senior Researcher Angelo Fick, helping us to unpack and understand what's been unfolding over the past almost 2 weeks now, Angelo. How incredibly fitting that this is the place where she will spend these last few hours before her funeral tomorrow. You remember that bite from that documentary where she says, "I am just an ordinary member of Soweto and I wouldn't have it any other way."
Which, of course, is classic WinnieMandela understatement about herself. There is no measure by which WinnieMandela is an ordinary member of the community of Soweto. And I think it is precisely because of her ability to construct herself in this way that we see the kind of widespread of South Africans, from very poor people to people inside the ANC regalia to ordinary people coming, just to be here at what will become a sort of pilgrimage for many people, to say their final goodbyes to a woman they may not have known personally, they may have known of, but there's a sense in which Soweto and WinnieMandela goes back so long. If we go back into the 1950s, this was the home that she made with those two small children and her new husband, the home from which she was taken in 1977 to Brandfort, the home she returned to in 1986 when it was decided that she should come back to Soweto by the then apartheid government, and the home from which, until she removed herself to Diepkloof, from which all of the material that many people are now rethinking and re-examining, the ways in which we misunderstood, understood, reinterpreted, misinterpreted WinnieMandela's role inside the ANC's anti-apartheid struggle in the dying days of the white nationalist Christian regime, to the space in which she came back to in post-apartheid South Africa when it was felt that her presence in formal politics was obsolete. And as people like Tokyo Sexwale indicated, she did not choose the path that many others did, which was to remove yourself to the north. She remained in Soweto, the southwestern township, which now goes by that name, Soweto, to which people were removed from places like Sophia Town. And Soweto and WinnieMandela aren't quite synonymous, but it is almost inextricable. The very street that she lived on is one of the few streets, in fact it's the only street in the world that says 2 Nobel laureates lived on it. Vilakazi Street is also the space in which we have a center of a hive of activity around social and nightlife. So what we're seeing here is one part of Soweto, this complex, thriving, vibrant place that has such a central role in South African history, now being once again the focus of attention of the world, attention of South Africans, and not just because of mediated pictures like the one I'm currently in, but also because of their own connection to place and space as place of removal and place of return. Soweto is the place to which black people got removed from urban centers in South Africa. Soweto is the space that Winnie Mandela said is the space I can return to as home and from which she will depart as a final goodbye for South Africans.
And of course it's the area from which she was banished as well. So this homecoming today, this last trip that she will make, that her body at least will make to this place that holds such a significance in the country, there is the sense of a heaviness of heart.
There is the heaviness of heart, and I think part of that has to do with fellow feeling for people who were very close to her. The daughters, the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren, the Madikizela family themselves. What I think it's also the sadness of a particular era in South Africa's history and South Africa's political history goes with people like Winnie. We now have to begin to realize that people of that generation are moving on and are telling us that they're moving on. And it now becomes, we are the adults. It is now our responsibility to build this country into the vision that we want to have. And it's taking that ownership, which I think is difficult for anybody in their own personal lives, when you have to take over from your parents or the people who are older than you. I think for a country to have to say goodbye, and she's not the first of her generation to go. We have had to say goodbye to Emma Mashanini, we have had to say goodbye to Loretta Ngobo, we've had to say goodbye to many other public women. And public figures, particularly black women and black men, political party figures who were prominent for the last 15 to 20 years. And I think the distance between Nelson Mandela's funeral and Winnie Mandela's funeral marks for us that there will be many more of these that we have to prepare ourselves for, because the baton is now ours.
Yeah, I mean, that's my question to you, I guess. Are we ready to, I mean, we're losing these stalwarts, as you say, so very few of the caliber of Winnie Madikizela Mandela left in this world, in this country. Are we ready as a country? I suppose we have to be.
I don't think it's necessarily a question of being ready as a country. I think it's important, if we're going to suggest that in this moment we honour the legacy and the fight and the resistance and the defiance of Winnie Madikizela Mandela, we should recognise all of those qualities in so many people around us every day. The distance between the 2015 student uprisings against imposed fee increases and the call for fee-free education showed us a whole new generation of young people whom we vilified exactly as a society the way in which Winnie Madikizela Mandela and people of that generation were vilified, exactly as the children of 1976 were vilified. It's as if history repeats itself, first as tragedy and now increasingly as farce. So here is a moment for all of us as South Africans to confront ourselves and to think, if we're going to suggest that we honour the life and legacy of the woman who personified, was the symbol of defiance for much of the second half of the 20th century, what is it that we're missing about reading figures who are embodying that defiance in the 21st century by vilifying them, by suggesting that their quest is not legitimate, and simply asking ourselves, if we want to say that this woman was a hero, we need to ask questions of ourselves about what heroes in our current environment reminding us how to behave we are missing out on.
Well, we're just hearing some singing coming from just down the road here. I'm going to step out of shot. Angelo and I both will step out of shot and just give you a sense of some of the tributes that are beginning to take place here as we wait for the body of Winnie Madikizela Mandela to arrive back home in Orlando West, Soweto, for the very last time. To resist such cute faces, bringing to you live here from Orlando West in Soweto. What appears to be a group of perhaps creche school children coming with their teacher to pay their respects, saying that we walk together, part of what they were singing there, and holding a placard paying tribute to Mama Winnie Madikizela Mandela. They'll be visiting with the family this morning as we are stationed here waiting for the body of Mama Winnie Madikizela Mandela to make this trip for the last time to her home in Orlando West, Soweto.
mean, it's great to actually hear that you have kids outside the home. Michelle, I was there last week and I saw a 2-year-old being positioned by her dad to take pics outside the home, just so that in the future he can teach her about the legacy of Winnie Mandela. We'll go back to you a little later on. That's Michelle Craig, the lead anchor.